Hello everyone and welcome to Wrestling World Domination Remastered. My name is Bob Hazelwood. This is episode number 3 featuring Brian Christopher Lawler. One of the things we try to do in our remastered episodes is remove references to what was, at the time, upcoming events. That proved difficult in this episode because one of the reasons we had Brian on when we did was to promote a charity show benefiting the family of a longtime fan in Louisville, Kentucky. Some of those references simply could not be edited out without leaving large gaps in the conversation, so we chose to leave them intact. This show originally aired May 21st, 2014 as a live show on Blog Talk Radio. We were able to take calls from listeners, and one of those callers, Doug from Tennessee, was of course Dangerous Doug Gilbert, who joined us in promoting the benefit show. With that, here's Terry Garvin Sims with Brian Christopher.
There you go, Brian. How are you, my old friend?
I'm doing good, man. Doing real good. Before I was a professional wrestler, I was a fan, and I sat right there on the front row at the Mid-South Coliseum every Monday night for about 9 years of my life growing up, and I remember Beauty and the Beast just like it was yesterday.
Well, thank you, my friend. And I'm going to tell you something. This is from the heart, okay? We weren't around each other a whole lot. You weren't there during the Beauty and the Beast time. I did come back for a little bit after I went to Dallas and before I cut the hair and became the baby face for Global and all that. And that's when, you were starting. I'm going to tell you what, Brian, you did it right. I think it's great the way you did it by not taking your dad's name, and you were a talent. You could not only work, but you looked good, and you were a great talker. I think that, you should have really, really been pushed there, but you had a great shot in the WWE, and I commend you for it, my friend. We worked out in the gym a couple of times, and you always worked on your body, and I just wanted to get that out there, okay?
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I do remember when you made that comeback up there to the Memphis area, and back then you didn't have 350 channels that you could surf through, so you had a limited number of channels, and I remember Global. We got, when we finally got the Texas wrestling up there in the Mid-South area, and so I watched all that stuff you did back then, and you were one of my favorites, believe it or not.
Oh man!
I swear, believe it or not, you and Buddy Landell, my dad, well, I guess it's no secret now who my dad is, Jerry Lawler. For years we tried to tell everybody that wasn't my dad. And back then, when before the internet and everything, the people believed, that he wasn't my father. But now you can jump on there and find anything you want. But he always asked me, he said, "Who are your favorite wrestlers?" And he would always try to use my input on who he brought in to the territory, because he was one of the bookers, one of the promoters. And so I told him, well, my favorite of all time is Buddy Landell. And he said, what makes you like Buddy Landell? Well, he got mad that I like Buddy Landell, and then I told him I liked you and King Kong Bundy and all kinds of different names I threw out there. But
he probably got mad when you told him you liked me.
I think he did a little bit.
No, we had we tagged together and did some stuff in Dallas. I did that commentary, and I'll tell you a funny story that you may not know, but the baby faces always took pictures, Polaroids back then. You'd get a Polaroid for $5, and Jerry and I were doing that tag team thing with Billy Travis, and he and I were tagging one night, and he said, "Hey, man, let's you and I do Polaroids in the ring." during the first intermission, and we went out and did it. And of course, you know, they couldn't say no because he was Jerry Lawler. And man, we had a line like you wouldn't believe. We made some serious money and got some serious heat because they were mad because we made the intermission go quite a bit over.
Oh yeah, he still does that to this day. When I'm on a wrestling show with him, you know, he still wrestles. You know, he does the commentary for the WWE, but on the weekends he still wrestles locally, you know, down here around Memphis and whatnot, and then he wrestles, you know, for any promoter across the country that'll book him and pay him, you know, what he wants to be paid. And so he still wrestles on the weekend. But I'm gonna tell you what, he goes out there during those intermissions, and they're only supposed to be about 15 or 20 minutes, and they turn into 45 minutes to an hour because he's got such a big long line, you know. And he loves that money, so he's gonna stay out there until the last autograph signed and the last baby is kissed and all that, you know.
Well, that's exactly what happened down there, and they kept sending messages out. You know, Jerry Jarrett kept sending messages out. Y'all get out of the ring. Y'all get out of the ring. Not only were they mad about it going over, but the baby faces were mad because all the fans were up there taking pictures of us, and we were heels. And back then, heels didn't do that.
Right, heels ain't supposed to get no gimmick sales. That's right. Hey, but I'll what gets me now is nowadays everybody has a camera phone. You know, a phone and a phone got a camera, and so the days of the Polaroids are gone. There's no you can't get that $5 taking a picture with a fan anymore. You know, because matter of fact, they don't even make Polaroid cameras anymore.
Right, absolutely right. And, you know, there's nothing you can do about that. All you can do is if you're a big baby face like you can sell your pictures, you know, and autograph them and still get paid good. But you sure can't take Polaroids with the fans.
Right.
We do got a caller on the line, but I wanted to ask something first.
All right, go ahead, man.
Back in the early days, when you started with the WWF and they had the whole light heavyweight title tournament, was there ever any sort of indication that they planned on building the division similar to WCW's cruiserweight division? Or because, I mean, the cruiserweight division was huge and like majorly featured by WCW, but with WWF after the tournament, they seemed to push the whole division to the wayside. I remember you being there, Taka being there, and Scott Taylor being there, but that was pretty much it. There wasn't too many people competing for that title in the early days. And I was wondering if you could give any insight on that, like when it was first introduced, like if the original plans were to compete and make a real division and they just ended up, you know, not following through, or if basically what we saw was the original concept.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, man, when I was placed in the light heavyweight division, that was kind of a shocker to me because when I first came into the WWF, they hadn't brought up the light heavyweight thing yet, and so you know I came in as Too Sexy Brian Christopher, and I was actually brought in there by my dad. He would accompany me to the ring when I first got there, and then it wasn't long after that when they did come up with the idea of the light heavyweight division, and I think it did stem from the WCW being so successful with theirs, and so they wanted to give it a try. But to be honest with you, man, it's kind of like it's a bad. All the wrestlers in the dressing room are pretty much, you know, 6 feet tall or taller, you know, 6'4", 6'3", 6'5", you know, 260, 270 pounds, you know. So if you're classified as a light heavyweight, you know, that's a bad stigma to have, you know, attached to you. And so I didn't like it. And then they bring in all these Japanese wrestlers, and there was a lot of Mexican wrestlers, and you know, they at the time didn't speak very much English, so that was a chore, having to wrestle these guys. And then I think one of the things that was its downfall was the promoter that was in charge of bringing in the talent from overseas. Most of your light heavyweights are going to be, Mexican or Japanese wrestlers or whatnot, but the guy that was in charge of bringing in those talents right there, he was I don't want to throw his name out there, but he's got a bad reputation in the wrestling business, and he was underhanded type guy. Didn't always do business on the up and up, and I think he burned his bridge there. And so once that happened, the whole division and putting the title on Taka was what they did, out of the tournament. He defeated me in the finals for the title. But, I always thought that it should have been me, as the champion, because, and have all these different baby faces follow me, because first of all, Taka couldn't speak English, so he can't cut a promo. So you're putting a belt on somebody that can't even cut a promo on television, and then they didn't even give him a manager or anything that could speak for him. So you got a babyface champion that can't speak English, So that's just a recipe for disaster to start with. So I always thought that I should have been the champion, and then bring in different guys to try to beat me for the belt, because I certainly can tell you how great I am. I can do that.
Well, but that's a good thing. I have a message from someone that has a pretty good question, and I've never asked you this, talked to you about this, but whose idea was it? Was it your dad's idea not to use the name Lawler so that you could not be under that pressure and learn to work without, being Jerry Lawler's son? Was it his idea?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it was his idea. He told me early. Well, see, first of all, he never even knew that I wanted to become a wrestler. I was the story of how I got into the business is I went to a local show in Memphis at a high school. I went to the show as a guest of one of the wrestlers, and I was sitting there watching the matches behind the curtain, and I was there with my best friend, my buddy Tony Williams. We were watching the matches, and I turned to Tony and I said, "Oh my gosh, these guys suck." And then when I said that, one of the wrestlers heard me say that, and immediately he said, "Oh, okay, Jerry Lawler's son over here says we suck." He said, "You think you can do better than that? You think you're any better than we are?" Huh? And I had never stepped foot in a wrestling ring before in my life. And so, he said, "You think you can do better than that?" And so I turned to him, I said, "Well, I know for a fact that I'm better than that guy right there. And I know I'm better than that guy right there. And I'm certainly better than that one. Look at him, And so they said, "Well, why don't you get up in there and show us what you can do?" I said, "Well, somebody let me borrow some boots and somebody let me borrow some tights, and I will get up in there." So I borrowed some boots, borrowed some tights, got in the ring, and had the best match by far on the show that night. I wrestled my buddy Tony that I was there with, and we had a pretty daggum good match, and it was videotaped. And I took that videotape to my dad, and I said, first of all, I said, "You want a good laugh?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "All right, well, watch this." So he put it in, and we watched. This is back in VHS days, also VHS tape. And so he puts it in. And he sits there, and he doesn't laugh. He's just watching and watching. And then when the match is over with, he told me, he said, "I'll tell you what, you get yourself a mask, and you get yourself some tights that covers your entire body. I don't want to see any skin at all. I want you to cover your entire body so that nobody knows who you are. You do that, and then I'll think about letting you wrestle." So I went out, and this is back. You remember the K&H called Hildegard? I know you know K&H, though. That
sure.
That was the only only place you could buy some wrestling tights and stuff like that. So I ordered me up some wrestling tights from K&H. It was a mask, and me and my partner Tony Williams, we became the Twilight Zone. And so, you know, when my dad said he was going to let me wrestle, I didn't realize that I was going to be put out there on Saturday morning TV, and as you know, a job guy, and get the snot kicked out of me, you know, every single Saturday for months and months and months. And then Jerry Jarrett was actually took over the book. You know, they would swap out the booking.
6 months, right?
6 months, and then my dad would take it over, and then Jerry Jarrett would take it back over. Well, when Jerry Jarrett took over the books, he came to me and Tony, and he said, "Well, I want to take the mask off of y'all, and turn you into a good babyface tag team." And this is what really, you know, like I said earlier about I wasn't too happy about it being in the light heavyweight division. Well, I was really not happy about the names that they came up with for me and my partner. We were called the New Kids, and you know,
I remember.
That was a name, you know, coming off of the New Kids on the Block. And if there was any group that I hated, it was the New Kids on the Block. And so now when we go to the ring, I got to hear, you know, New Kids on the Block blaring in my ears and everything. And so, but my dad, he did come to me and he said, you know, what we're going to do is I'm telling you, if you call yourself a Lawler, that's the kiss of death. I'll never forget, he said that's the kiss of death is being the son of a wrestler. He said, because you're always got to try to live up to your father's, you know, you're in his shadow. You got to live up to his career. And then also the majority of all the wrestlers and the fans, but mainly the wrestlers, are going to think that you're only a wrestler because of who your dad is. And so, you know, all the wrestlers would have thought, oh, well, he's only in the business because his dad is Jerry Lawler, you know, and they wouldn't know that you know, I've been in this business ever since I was born, you know, with being a kid growing up, you know, the son of Jerry Lawler. So I've been in this business my entire life, and I love this business. And that's why I wanted to become a professional wrestler. It wasn't, you know, any other reason but the fact that I love professional wrestling. And like I said, I sat on that front row growing up at the Mid-South Coliseum. You know, I watched every single program I could get my hands on of wrestling tapes, read every, you know, back then you got wrestling magazines that would come out, you know, monthly at the local 5 and Dime store. You know, I'd get my hands on every wrestling magazine I could. And like I said, you didn't have cable back then or satellite. So, you know, I'd see all these names of all these wrestlers like Nick Bockwinkel, you know, and things like that. And I, you know, just couldn't wait to get the chance to see him actually wrestle, you know, because I'm reading about him in all these magazines and I'm reading these stories about him, but, you know, I never got to see him wrestle, you know. And then finally they would come into the Mid-South area and wrestle my dad or something like that. And it was just, you know, back then it was just different than it is now. And so I grew up just loving professional wrestling, and that's the reason I became a professional wrestler. And it didn't have anything to do with, you know, who my dad was. And I'm glad that I didn't use his last name and made a name for myself. You know, that's what I did as I went out there. Always told everybody he was not my father, and you know, did it my way.
Right, until Dirty Doug actually kind of exposed it. We've got a caller, Ryan from Maryland, that wants to ask you something, Brian. Can you put him through?
Yep, he's on with us right now.
All right, great. Brian, you got a question for Brian Lawler or Christopher?
Yes, my question for Brian is, did you ever feel uncomfortable wrestling your father in the ring?
Have I ever felt uncomfortable? Well, only here recently because his hair, he's so worried about his hair, and so when you grab a hold of it, you yank it and twist it like I like to do, that gets him a little riled up. That's about on me. But wrestling him, I just treat him like he's any other wrestler, and I'm going to kick him just as hard as I'm going to kick somebody else, or usually when we wrestle each other, I usually have to switch heel, even if we're both baby faces going out there. I usually get on the microphone and talk about what a horrible father he was growing up, and how he didn't do this for me and showed me no love and affection and everything, and get the crowd, a little sympathetic on his side, and so usually I wind up being the heel whenever we wrestle each other. But I actually enjoy wrestling. It's better than just you got some drama there. You got a little soap opera with a father wrestling his own son, and the son doesn't like his father to begin with. That's what we had, and that's the story that we portrayed I don't know if you saw when I came out on the WWE and with Michael Cole and told everybody what a horrible father he was to me growing up. And we ran with that for a little while. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people wondered why we didn't follow up on that. And, I had a lot of people come up to me at gas stations and Walmart or whatnot and say, Brian, your father loves you, and he couldn't be there all those times. He had to travel. I had people break down in tears at some of these places, and trying to convince me that my father really loves me and did care about me, but he just couldn't be there when I was growing up. But I like wrestling my dad every opportunity I get.
Good question. You got another one real quick for him?
Have you ever created a rap for the women wrestlers so you could try to get lucky with?
Have I ever created a rap? You talking about a rap song?
Right, like you're the Grand Master.
Well, believe it or not, no, I have not given that any thought, creating a rap for a female wrestler. But I do, believe it or not, I have a CD that I'm about to release to the public, and it's about to go on sale. I've recorded 9 songs. Matter of fact, my entrance song is one that I did. It's a dance song that I did myself, and I've got 9 songs completed. I got 1 more to do, and the song that's left is is going to be a song about the story of my life. And I want it to be the best one of the whole bunch. And then when I finish that song, I'm releasing a CD, and you will find out that not only can I wrestle, I can sing, and I can do a little rapping of my own. Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool. Cool. I didn't know you could rap.
Oh, yeah, brother. I can. Matter of fact, oh, my gosh, I'm out here in the front yard of my house, and I got my car right here. If I got the keys, oh, man, I'll turn it on I'm going to go inside and get the keys. I'm going to come back out here to my car, and I'm going to turn on me rapping just for you. Go ahead with another caller while I do this, because I want you to hear this.
Thank you for your question, Ryan. Appreciate it. Okay, I got Dennis from Alabama on right now.
You're on with Brian Lawler Christopher, Dennis.
Okay, I want to ask Buddy Landel, what made him a good wrestler in your opinion?
Oh, okay, I got you. What did I like so much about Buddy Landel? Well,
right.
All right, to be honest with you, I like wrestlers that have attitude. I like wrestlers that go out there and tell you how great they are and just go on and on about themselves. And Buddy Landel is one of the ones that I thought did that better than anybody. I like the fact that he didn't care that Ric Flair was the Nature Boy. He was going to call himself the Nature Boy also. You know what I'm saying? And he was going to sport the bleach blonde hair just like Ric Flair, and he was going to come out wearing the robes with all the rhinestones and jewels and everything. And he didn't, he did it just like I did it. He did it his way, and that's one thing I liked about Buddy Landel. And matter of fact, I wound up being real good friends with Buddy Landel once I got into the business, and even told him that he was my favorite wrestler growing up, and he couldn't believe it himself. He said, out of all the wrestlers, you picked me? I bet that made your dad mad. And I said, well, yeah, kind of. But Buddy's a great guy, and that's why I really like him, because he did it his way, you know.
I agree with Jan Budrow. I mean, he was a character. I've always said that my favorite wrestlers were cartoon characters, and I worked with Buddy, in several places. I just saw a match where Bully Busick and I were wrestling, and Budrow did the commentary, and even though, he cut us both down, but yet put us over to a certain degree, and he was a great psychologist in the ring, same as your dad, Those guys, like I've always said, they could have matches with broomsticks, it seems like, because they're just that good.
Yeah, exactly.
We got a question from the chat room. Brian, do you feel that Ascension from NXT will become major stars in the WWE?
Man, all right, I can't believe I'm being asked this question, because I just wrestled. I don't know if you know this or not, but me and Scotty 2 Hotty was on the pay-per-view. Matter of fact, it was their first ever pay-per-view. You can still go on the WWE Network and watch this match. And me and Scotty 2 Hotty wrestled the Ascension. And if there's any two, when they're saying that these guys are following in the footsteps of the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, and they couldn't be more dead on with that assessment of these guys. They are everything that they're built up to be. They're great, got good looks to them, and I'll tell you one thing, they're stiff as hell when you get in the ring with them. They knocked Scotty unconscious for 15 seconds with their finishing move. He was literally knocked unconscious for 15 seconds, and I think he fractured his forearm also in the match. And they put a big goose egg on my head. So, when it comes to being stiff, they're right up there with the best of them nowadays. But I do believe that they are going to make it. They got what it takes, not only in the ring, but they got good attitudes in the dressing room, and they're willing to listen and learn as they go, and they're being trained by some of the best down there at the training facility down in Orlando, and I think those guys are going to make it.
Okay, that's a great question. Brian, man, thanks for your time. Bob, did you have a quick question for Brian? I know he wants to get off.
Yep, I know. With a quick question. Been primarily known as a tag team wrestler, even though I think you've spent most of your time as a singles wrestler, but most of your primary exposure in WWF was as a tag team wrestler. Given the state of tag team wrestling in the WWE today, do you think Too Cool could come back and actually compete well in that division?
Man, with these questions are dead on. These questions are some of the best questions. If I had written down what I wanted to be asked, these would have been the questions right here. It's funny you come up with this, because I was just talking to a lot of my friends like X-Pac and Road Dogg and Billy Gunn and stuff, and we all were talking about how Too Cool could compete today. And matter of fact, I think not only could we compete, we would be very entertaining and be an asset to the company, if they would give us the chance. Every time we're on there, we get nothing but great reviews from all the fans, it has been 12 years since our heyday, with Rikishi and doing the stink face and the worm and the hip hop drop and all that kind of stuff. It's been a while since we were in the spotlight, but I'm telling you, we haven't missed a step, we haven't missed a beat. Me and Scotty can still go with the best of them, and if they'd give us a shot, we would take it and run with it.
One real quick question before you go. I know that I don't watch a lot of wrestling any longer, but I did see you and Scotty back on that show not that long ago, the Throwback Show. Y'all both look phenomenal. Your work was really good. You don't look like you've dropped a beat. any plans that we're going to see you back in the WWE anytime soon?
I promise you, I'm doing day by day, every day. I'm telling myself that it's going to happen next week. I'm staying in the gym. I'm staying in good cardio shape, and I'm just ready for the phone. I'm waiting on the phone call because I've let them know that that's my plans. I want to make a return, and I know Scotty is doing the same thing. I can see it in his eyes. He wants another shot. So you got two eager guys that could be an asset to the company. Like I said earlier, we could go out there and teach a lot of these young guys, how to work a crowd, how to work. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't realize you wrestle Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday nights. It's not just Monday night, that they're wrestling. They're wrestling 4 to 5 times a week, and that's a lot of training, in-ring training that we could give some of these young and up-and-coming wrestlers and stuff. And that's what we want to do. We want to go out there and not only get paid and make some money, but also help these young and up-and-coming wrestlers learn what it takes to be a professional wrestler and learn how to entertain.
Absolutely. Buddy, I really thank you, Brian. It's been years since I've talked to you. I look forward to seeing you.
Brian, if we can keep you for just one more second, we got one more guy who wants to talk to you. This is Doug from Tennessee. You're on the air.
Are y'all telling me you got Brian Christopher on the phone now?
You're on with him, Doug.
Yeah, Brian's on here.
Oh my God, Terry. Listen, y'all did ask him, or some of the guys asked him, who probably one of his toughest opponents he ever wrestled at Louisville Gardens was, right? I guess he probably didn't say me, though, right?
I don't think he said you, Doug. This is Doug Gilbert, folks.
Hey, guys. Look, now, I was calling in not to pester Brian or nothing, but listen, man, it will be good to finally be on a show around the Louisville area with Brian Christopher, PG-13, Jamie Dundee, JC Ice, Wolfie D, and Terry, to be the first show you've been at in what? And did you tell Brian this? What somebody tell me? 14 years since you've been at a wrestling show.
Buddy, it's the first time that I've actually made an appearance that's been advertised since I retired in 2000 when, I had all my surgeries. So it is, again, I'm not wrestling. I will just be there to say hi to the fans, but if anybody tries to mess with me, I might, maybe throw a punch or, I can still take care of myself.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, I'm sure. Hey, I guarantee you, I've been around Brian in the last month or so, and I know he can sure still take care of himself, and I can take care of myself. But listen, it'd be like, and I think Brian will tell you this, like myself and him, we kind of both grew up into our own at the Louisville Gardens in the Louisville area, and had some good times there. And what we're doing as far as for the Hattler family, there's one thing, I'm sure Brian will tell you this, and everybody knows Brian knows this. We're coming. It's not going to be. We're coming to have a good time. It's not going to be a sad occasion. It's going to be a happy occasion. Believe me, you'll see Brian Christopher dancing and doing his hip hop drop, I'm sure, and his Too Sexy, whatever he's got going on. And I'm not sure exactly what I might be doing, and other than wrestling and PG-13, they'll be doing their thing. But I think it'll be a time, and I think Brian can tell you this here, which I'm sure y'all asked him a million questions already. But I think Brian could tell you the days of the Louisville Gardens was good days for all of us. And actually, I'm looking forward to this trip to Louisville, and actually I think Brian is too. And it's all for a good cause. And like I said, there's not many times people ask us a lot to come and do things. And we do a lot of, Brian does a lot of charity stuff, and he probably didn't tell you this, and a lot of public speaking engagements with schools, with kids, and has drug talks with them. And Brian's done a lot of great stuff for kids and everybody else. But this is one deal that we know 100% of the proceeds goes to the family. That Brian knew Chris very well. I knew Chris and his family very well, and it was good people. And you know what, Terry? It's good when you can do something for people that has actually helped you out in your career. And every Tuesday night when me and Brian would see these people sitting on the front row, and They come more. It was like I told me and Brian had talked before about it. You know, I mean, when Brian went to WWE, they would go to one city like one time a year, and at the most 2 times a year. Terry, you know this because you was in the Memphis, the Louisville territory. Well, we went to Louisville. We went to Memphis every Monday night. We went to Louisville every Tuesday night. And in those days, you kind of got to know the people a little better than these days. And that's not saying a bad thing. Just the industry has grown so much. But when we got to know the people, when you come to cities every week and you know these people, like I said, Brian got connected with them. Myself got connected with them. A lot of guys got to know a lot of people on much more of a personal basis than the guys do these days. And that's not saying nothing bad about that, because the industry has grown so much. You got to go around the world and make money. But we was in at the last of what I will say was the good time of well, I mean, the time of wrestling is still great, but the time when there was territories where guys like yourself, like Brian, like myself, you could go to different territories and work for different promoters, in which that day is gone.
Yes. Yes, it is. And I miss those days, but I appreciate what Vince has done. But you've got it right on the head.
This is one of the funny things, and people never hear these stories. But like I said, myself and if Brian's still on here, he'll tell you this is the truth. I don't know if it is or not. But anyway, like myself and Brian, when we was together and like when we was partners and stuff, on and off at different times, we'd leave Memphis about. We're 400 miles from Louisville, and we'd leave Memphis about 5 hours before the show would start. So we're driving 100 miles an hour all the way to freaking Louisville and just going wide open. I mean, I'm not bragging about this. It's just the thing. Brian was never the best to be on time anyway. So if he told me he was going to meet me at 12, he wouldn't meet me till 1:30. Or so, or 2, and then y'all are an hour ahead, so it's 3. And here I'm 400 miles, and we're either in my Lincoln or one of his cars, and we're going just wide open to get there. And this wound up being about an every week thing. And I'm gonna tell you, if it wasn't for Brian making a ton of money in WWE, he would probably have rather stayed in Louisville and Memphis, because all of us guys had a large time being at home. And like I said, it was great having fans like you had. You didn't have any better fans. I mean, we had great Memphis fans, great Evansville fans, great Nashville fans, but Louisville when us guys like Brian, the guys our age, from my age to Brian's age to like Peter or Jamie Wolfie's age to us guys, we was kind of, if you can say lucky, one of the luckier bunch to come in right before things really changed and everything. I mean, we all had a ball. I mean, you can't ride up and down and have a ball at your job. I mean, a lot of people can't say they have fun at their job. When you drive from Memphis to Louisville, and me and Brian finally would catch up with somebody, and we'd throw eggs at them or Jello or whatever all over the car that we knew, and going 100 miles an hour. People just couldn't do that. And a lot of people would say, with me saying this, maybe we was all crazy. And you know what, Terry? Maybe we all are crazy in one sense, but I think maybe you have to be to have lived the lives that we have.
Yeah, we're definitely all crazy, and I've done those trips myself. Just to let people know, to put it in perspective, okay? You're talking about 3-hour trip between Memphis and Nashville, and about hour and 45 minutes maybe between Nashville and Louisville. And that's driving it, above the speed limit. So who's driving on those trips?
Well, that would be me in the emergency lane, Terry.
That would be him in the emergency lane. Or this was where I got the short end of the stick at. Sometimes we would get ready to go, and Brian would say, "Well, so and so is going to drive, or I'm going so and so." I'd say, "Well, okay, so and so's going with me." So we both take off up the road. Wide open, fast as we go. Here we go. Well, when stuff would start getting thrown out at each other, at each car, and here we're going up, 100, 120 miles an hour as fast as we can go to get there. And freaking all of a sudden, I think bottles thrown. I think, well, surely they're throwing plastic bottles, right? We're going 100 miles an hour down the road, and all of a sudden a freaking Gatorade glass, the old bottles, comes out and slams the windshield, busts the windshield. I thought, well, hold on now, this might be getting a little bit out of hand, but we went all the way from that. Like I said, I mean, and people say that I'm saying this now that we're a little bit crazy, but we're all a little bit different, and I think we knew that. Was me and Brian would have people chase us out of the Louisville Gardens and us trying to get away. So Brian said, well, if you'll get over another lane, I'll throw something in there. We'll have to lose them then. So I thought, okay, we lost them. So about 4 days later, I get a letter in the mail, and somebody's got my license plate number, and Brian has done something, hit their car with something, and they filed it against my insurance, and I got to pay for the freaking car. So that was some of the deals.
Oh, my goodness.
That we got to do a little bit.
Aim. I was good shot, baby.
Hey, what's friends for, right, Brian?
Exactly. I didn't need no enemies when I had friends like Brian. But it's one thing. Like I said,
remember, Doug, when I threw something at you over in Arkansas, and I was riding with my dad, and he got mad or something, and wound up firing you.
Oh yeah, he fired me off that deal. And listen to this, old Terry. This was one of the best. The deal Brian's talking about now, it's one of the best. But this is the best one where, as far as Brian come out the short end of the deal, which he'd always have $400 or $500 just in his pocket, right? Like in small bills or 20s, 10s, 5s, different stuff, gimmick money, his regular money, everything. So he sets out on the side, and I think this was with his dad. His dad's driving. He sets out on the window of the car, and he starts throwing stuff at me. Well, all of a sudden I thought, well, what's he throwing at me? Paper? And I look, and he's throwing stuff at me, but his money's flying out of his pocket. It's just flying straight out right in the air in front of my car. And I thought, what's he hitting me with, paper? And I thought, well, shit, that's money. Hold on a second here. And all of a sudden I realized,
I'll never forget that. That was from Evansville back to Memphis, and that was $660 that went right out of my pocket.
How much?
$660 flew right out of my front coat pocket.
I'll tell you one quick story. I told this not long ago. You'll like this one, Brian. You will too, Doug. I was wrestling Jerry Lawler in my hometown where I went to high school, which is Louisville, of course. Jerry and I were in the main event, and Brian, you may have been there, and you might have too, Doug, because it's when I came back up, the time we were talking about. But I was wrestling Jerry, and of course I was the heel, he's the babyface, and before the match starts, he tells the referee to tell me to get the microphone and point out a girl in a wheelchair and tell him that's what happens when cousins marry. Well, it's my hometown, and I said, man, I can't do this. It's my hometown. Tell him, I can't do it. Well, he said, do it. It'll be great heat. So, of course, he's the boss, and I did it. It was great heat, all right. The police were, I needed a police escort out, and I was scared they were going to arrest me. Dean Hill, who's OVW's, announcer, was a cop back then, and he sent word back that, man, you got killing heat. People are saying they're going to kill you. And not only that, but on Saturday night, I got a call to an office, and Christine Jarrett did it really sweet, man, really good. But she told me, she said, you are a really, really talented young wrestler, but if you ever do that again, I will fire you. You don't need a cheap heat. Of course, I couldn't say, well, Jerry Lawler told me to do it. I just, yes, ma'am. Yes, Miss Christine. Guys, we're right up against the time. I want to thank you very, very much. Anything that you guys want to add before we jump off here?
No, man, these weights are calling my name. I got to get off here right now.
I hear you, buddy. I hear you. Thank you so much. I'm going to tell you, Doug, you were a great talent. You did a lot of things that I didn't do. You made a lot more trips to Japan than I did, and I respect everything that you've done in the wrestling business. Of course, you know that I respect your brother. I love the fact that he thought that I was good enough to work an angle with him and to work with you. I owe a lot to both of you.
Okay.
Thanks, my friend.
Oh, okay, good deal. Y'all guys take it easy. Thank y'all now.
As you probably know, Brian passed away on July 29, 2018. He'd been jailed for a DUI, evading arrest, and driving on an expired license. He was found hanging in a cell at the Hardeman County Jail. His father, Jerry Lawler, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against jail officials in 2019 on the anniversary of Brian's death. That case is set to go to trial in 2021. Brian was 46 years old at the time of his death. Rest in peace, Brian. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and, more importantly, spread the word.